everyone, this is Steve Weintraub with Collider. I'm here at our media studio at South by Southwest at the Cinema Center. Thank you for tuning in and watching our interviews. And the next one on our list is The Surfer. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. How
Yeah,
about
great.
you?
I really want to start with how much I enjoyed your movie. And let me start with that. But listen, a lot of people, they might have seen the trailer, they might not have. How have you been describing the film to people who aren't familiar with it?
That's, I really hate having to do that, but it's called like a thriller that is a psychological thriller, but it's also got sort of psychedelic elements to it, and it's a wild ride. It's like very unique, very strange film, but also a lot of fun.
Well, one of the things about the film that, for me, that I really enjoyed is it keeps the audience off balance.
Good.
You know, and so can you talk about that aspect of, like, I talk a little bit about that aspect if you don't mind.
Well, that was the script. The script's written by Thomas Martin, and he sent me like just an outline of 2-page outline for a story, and we both kind of love new wave Australian films from the 70s and stuff. So we kind of felt like this could be transposed into Australia to do more contemporary version of that kind of thing. So the script was then kind of woven to be this journey that the character goes on, where the audience are thinking, is he becoming the bum? Are people gaslighting him, or is he starting to lose his mind, or what's happening here? So it was kind of all in the script, really, that kind of construction, and then just how we shot it, and using visual language to kind of throw people in those directions throughout the film.
Yeah, I commend you.
Thank you.
It again, keeps you off balance.
Great.
What was it about this script and story that said, I need to do this?
Well, at the time, I knew that Nick was playing the lead role, so that's something that was interesting to me to be able to work with him. I'd seen Lorcan's films before, so that was a bonus as well, because I've seen a couple of his movies and I really enjoyed them. And then it was just the character. So when you read the script, you can see him, right? But there's just so many elements to this guy, and it's kind of an extraordinary character that we really haven't seen before. So it was an opportunity to play something that you just rarely get the opportunity to do. So I think it was...
Yeah, you dug in as well and found like really interesting elements to kind of bring out in that character too.
Yeah.
His hair.
And we had great discussions about what he's going to look like, how he's going to feel. And, you know that Nicolas is going to bring certain characteristics to his work because he's very energetic and he's very distinctive in regards to the way that he likes to play things, right? So you got to find some kind of way in there. And I think we kind of worked together to find this really kind of cool element of this character that wasn't too forceful. If he's kind of the bad guy, which he's kind of is, but kind of isn't, right?
It's kind of ambiguous, which is interesting.
It's kind of ambiguous, but you got all these different elements to play. So it was just, there was so much depth to this character. So it was just a really great opportunity.
I am curious when you're getting ready to, I'm so fascinated by how actors work and get ready to step on set that first day. So you obviously know what you're doing as an actor, but you are also going to be working with Nick Cage, who I just absolutely adore and love, and many people consider like just a phenomenal actor. Yeah. What is it like in that like month leading up to that first day of filming in terms of like in your head, like how much are you thinking about everything? Like when does it really turn on for you in terms of, oh, I need to like start really diving into this and figuring things out? How much is it like in the week, or you know what I mean? Like if you could take us
absolutely
through that like process.
No, because you do a lot of preparation. One thing I decided on this movie was I didn't want to kind of be over prepared. I wanted to see how it was going to evolve on set because I wanted to see what Nicolas was bringing. And I wanted to kind of work off of that, you know what I mean? And then I wanted to work with him. We'd had numerous discussions about what we were kind of thinking and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, I really wanted to get the elements of the environment kind of working with you as well, you know what I mean?
On location.
I remember the first scene we shot was that burger scene.
I know, big scene.
A huge scene. It's like 5-page scene.
And that was where basically you met Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
On set, doing that big long scene where he's offering him food.
Well, I was going to say like that sandwich scene is awesome.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic. And that's the first day.
That was day one.
That was day one,
and that was also me going, I hope the chemistry works between these two people.
Yeah.
And like so, they just met on set. in that scene, and you're like holding his face, and
That's
it was
right.
great.
Holding him, kissing
Well, I
him,
was just
and
watching
giving
it
the
going
burger
like,
and taking the
oh,
burger
thank
away.
God,
And,
this works.
we did like, 10 different kind of interpretations of it to try and find the right one. You know what I mean? So in regards to your question, you do your work in regards to learning your lines and all that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to kind of make sure that I was finding the character on set.
Sure. One of the things I've seen Nick work on set, and he is always discovering new things and always finding new ways.
Yeah.
So what is it actually like directing someone like that who is so, like passionate about a role? And for you, like working opposite someone like that, if you could talk a little bit about what was that like?
Yeah, he's very prepared, but we didn't have it like any rehearsal time basically on the film. So like all the conversations were like between me and Julian was like on Zoom and stuff in the weeks leading up, months. And same with Nick. And he had a very particular kind of view on the kind of rhythm of his speech, which is interesting. So like a lot of the changes made to the script were just little dialogue kind of trims and nips and stuff so that it would flow in a certain way from him. But very prepared and yeah, great energy, which is, just like we did something, we moved very fast as well. We were only shooting for about 27 days. So it was like go, go, go. So sometimes we'd, if the take was good, we'd move on. Sometimes we'd do 2 or 3, but never kind of again. Apart from that first day where we were just that was kind of like a rehearsal.
Yeah, it was a rehearsal for the whole movie.
Yeah, but that's also like a critical scene in the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
it needs to, like, I could understand, especially the first day, you're still figuring out a few things, and like that scene needs to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've been
absolutely.
shooting for a good while already, and so Nick had already kind of gone through a lot of the stuff, so he's all cut and his voice has changed and he's got no shoes on, and but that's when Julian just landed basically and came straight into that scene.
I'm fascinated by editing because it's ultimately where it comes together. So talk a little bit about, you get in the editing room, you get your assembly cut, you're getting ready to show it to friends and family, whatever. Are you ready to jump out the window? Or are you like...
Absolutely. It's the worst feeling in the world. Oh God, man. The like assembly. And like, I feel bad for the editor as well, because like I work with the same editor, Tony Cranston, on a bunch of my movies. And he's all, it's not his fault. It's my fault. So you're basically just seeing all, it's the script turned into scenes that you shot, put back into the order of the script. So it's just a mess and it's horrible and it's depressing. But you basically, that's the challenge then. You're like, okay, let's fix this. And you just get into it and start playing with it. And we had great fun actually editing The Surfer, because the film is from Nick's character's like subjective POV. Like he's in every scene and we kind of experience it as he experiences it, the story.
Sure.
So it allowed for like interesting shifts in time and perspective and stuff in the cut.
But that's actually what I wanted to get into, because you are keeping the audience off balance. You're not 100% sure what exactly is going on. So that had to have been a little bit like tricky in the edit, in terms of like, because I've spoken to a lot of directors and they say that like when you've watched the footage 1,000 times, you sort of like lose track a little bit. So I'm assuming you showed it to friends and family or a few people outside the editing room, or did you not?
No,
Really?
Not until I had it in some sort of shape that I liked.
But that's what I mean. Like, so once you had a cut that you were like happy with, what did you learn from those early screenings that like impacted the finished film?
There was only really one challenge, which was, and it was always in the script. It was one of those things where like, why doesn't he just leave? And that's, it's fine once his car his battery's dead and all that kind of stuff. But on the first night, so we basically, that was a thing we had to kind of work on in the edit to try and just allow the audience to kind of feel as he feels, that like, I'm not leaving because that fucker. Do you know what I mean? Which is him saying...
You can only say that on Collider, by the way.
That, he's like, you don't belong here anymore. So that was an edit thing as well, because that was from a scene that we'd shot, that wasn't supposed to be where it is in the film. his like point of view, remembering Scally saying, "You don't belong here," and that's the thing that makes him, you know, you understand. It's just being told to leave is what's making him stay.
Right.
So yeah, that was the only thing really, and then everything else was just started to play. Like some of the stuff that shot in the film wasn't really in the script necessarily, but I just had this sort of intuitive feeling that I needed shots to kind of pepper throughout the film that would lead to this satisfying ending where you're kind of experiencing something from the past, from Nick's childhood, that is sort of why he is the way he is in a way. So a lot of that stuff just the producers like, why are we doing that? Why is this guy on the beach lying in the sand? And just kind of felt like needed those elements because it was really inspired by Nick Rogue's films as well.
Well, I wanted to actually ask you that. And you mentioned earlier the Australian New Wave. There's going to be people who are watching who are not familiar with it. Is there like a film or two that you really want to single out as you should really check these out?
Yeah, I'd say Walkabout. I'd say Wake and Fright, Long Weekend, Picnic at Hanging Rock, the Third Wave.
These are terrible films. You should not watch these. They're just awful.
You know, there's so many, and they're also good. There was just a period of time when there was just these really interesting films. And, you know, with Ted Ketchoff being Canadian, who directed Wake and Fright, and Nick Rogue is British, doing Walkabout, there's also this tradition of non-Australians going to Australia to make a very Australian movie. So that we kind of felt like the outsider's view was an element that we could kind of work on within the film. And that's also from Cage's character being, being born in Australia, but then leaving when he's like, 10 or 12, coming back and having lost his accent and all that kind of stuff, making him more of an outsider.
Well, that's something else that I'm not sure if you want to recommend any films or.
No, that's the list is great.
So one of the things about the film that it gets into is like because Nick's character was born in Australia, left Australia, comes back. And so he feels like Australia's a piece of him, but he's lost the accent and the locals don't think he belongs. And so there's an element to the film of talking about like being an outsider in your own home. Like these are themes, could you sort of talk a little bit about those themes of the film, or do you, if you don't mind?
Yeah. I mean, they were always elements for this character. I mean, like, in a very early draft of the script, he was actually Australian, like an Australian character. And he just was trying to buy the home that he grew up in, but it's on the other side of the country kind of thing. And at one point we were like, do you know what? I think it would actually make it better if he was, had an American accent or something, like pushing that element of it. So then once we did, and Nick agreed to do the film, it was, we kind of got into I was trying to get across the idea that he has a kind of distorted view of this place and his past, that he has this nostalgia about a place. But nostalgia is never really accurate. It's sort of a romanticized version. And he thinks that by buying the house that he grew up in, it'll fix all of his problems, which never really works. So like the story for me was sort of about him finding out what it is that he needs versus what he wants. So like he wants this materialistic stuff to fix his sort of emotional needs. So, I mean, one of the things that was great to work on the film was the music. Francois Tutaz scored the film, but that was part of this nostalgia, this feeling of like we were kind of inspired by Exotica, which is like a music style like where they sort of invent a type of music that sounds exotic, sounds like it's from Hawaii or something, but it's not using like any indigenous instrumentation or anything like that. It just evokes a feeling. So that's what we're trying to do with the score, that it's like, a sort of weird auditory memory for the character.
For both of you, you see the shooting schedule in front of you. You know it's a tight shoot. What day do you have circled in terms of I can't wait to film this? And what day is circled in terms of how the F are we going to film this?
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
I think every day was how the F are we going to film.
Yeah. I mean, some stuff that you'd think was actually not going to be that complicated turned into be super complicated. Like that fight between Nick and Alex in the water was just so complicated because the waves were just like sucking them either out or in. So like sometimes there'd be no water. They're just on the beach and they're sort of fighting, but they're supposed to be in the water. So we'd have to do it again. And all of that kind of water stuff was super tricky. But I think burning the car was also a big element because we were in a national park. And there's huge bushfires and everything in Australia, so we didn't want to burn down the country.
Yeah.
But for you, what was...
Oh, look, I was looking forward to all of it. I was just excited to play this great character and excited to play opposite Nicholas and excited to work with this guy. But so, you know, every day there were so many creative elements to each day because of the schedule, we had to kind of be creative on the fly. So it wasn't like we had this board scripted completely and let's just stick to it. Lorcan a lot of the time was just like, I think I need this. I want to find this. Can we find this? And blah, blah, blah. So he set up the camera in so many different ways. So every day was an evolution of the piece itself. You know what I mean? As he was talking before, he was doing things that were not kind of scripted so much, but he had an intuition that would be kind of good to help the movie kind of tell the story. And that was really kind of interesting. Remember that scene that we did in, you know, where all the gents are in that thing and we put the cameras on ourselves. And,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a hard scene. Oh my God. We had this kit you had to put on your shoulders with a proper camera, right? Which is, I don't know how heavy they are, but they're like 60, 80 pounds or something. So it's heavy. And we're creating this kind of trippy party scene, which literally just kind of evolved as we were doing it, both inside and out. And so it was just this kind of great element of just kind of going with the flow and finding the energy and finding the creativity and finding the elements that would be interesting, could tell the story better, and also maybe just something kind of unique.
So I'm always curious because the thing that's amazing about movies is that there's no right way to make one. And every director works a different way and every actor has a different process. But so I'm always curious with directors, for something like this, how much are you, like before you step on set, thinking about every shot you want and every, you know, that kind of stuff? And how much are you sort of on the fly figuring out where you want to put cameras and having 2 cameras or 3 cameras or always just using one?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's different. Every film is different. They kind of require a different way of thinking. Like I made a movie called Vivarium, which was very kind of, had to be quite controlled. So it needed a lot of storyboarding and stuff because everything had to be built and sets and all this kind of stuff. But with this film, we didn't really storyboard anything. I think 1 or 2 scenes and then kind of just to figure out... like with Nick getting bitten by the rat under the seat, that took a little bit of figuring out between what was the real rat, which one was the animatronic-y one, and which one was the bouncy one for working against the car. But but on this film it was quite unique because we had this one location. So this is like car park, and you know, it was actually one place where you walk down a path and then you're at the beach. And we built the tiki hut on the beach. And there's the bathroom is there, you know, we clad it with some stuff or whatever, but like everything was just there. So it was like me and the DP were able to, in prep and on the weekends and everything, just kind of walk through the scenes and go, okay, we could be in here, we could do that, because we were able to just walk around. It was like a stage. And so we figured out a lot of stuff. And we had, you know, me basically pretending to be these guys, you know, and Radek, the cinematographer, would take photos. And yeah, we just sort of figured it out, the sort of blocking general ideas. And then when we got to it, then we'd you know, we had a bit of a plan.
Going back to what I said though about some directors like Ridley Scott likes to shoot with 8 cameras.
Yeah.
And like a Roger Deakins, it's 1 camera and that's it.
Yeah.
So for you, are you typically like a 1 camera on set, or like do you try to do multiple cameras?
No, I have in the past only used 1 camera. On this, we actually got a second camera and a second cinematographer. A young dude, Tim from Perth, who's, you know, up the road. And what I wanted from the second camera, though, wasn't like a typical sort of cross shooting. It was, we had like big long lenses in the movie in general, so a lot of like super long zooms and stuff. So with the second camera, I'd ask Tim to usually shoot like details, like hands, like textures, like hairy nostrils. Wanted all this kind of masculine sort of textures to be in the film. And it was great. Like we had this way of working. And when we didn't need two cameras, or their second camera was just sort of in the way, the second camera would go off and shoot like abstract stuff of water, or the waves, or the surfers, or nature stuff. You know, so it was great because I sort of felt like we needed a lot of different sizes in the film as well to kind of keep the energy moving within the cut.
I think I asked you this at Cannes last year, but I didn't get to ask you this. The film premiered at Cannes, which is like a really big deal. So what did that mean for you to be at the festival, and now you're at South by? It's like, these are really big festivals to be, you know, playing your movie.
Yeah, incredibly lucky, really, you know. And Cannes was amazing. It was like, you know, it was in the Palais and all of that, you know, it was a great night. And I had some music videos here years and years ago. And then I had a short film here in 2012. And that was the last time I was in Austin. So it's great to be back here. And the festival's so cool. It's such a great vibe in the town.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you again, because I got to talk to you at Cannes, and I remember it was on the roof of the Palais, I think. But what was your experience there, and what did it mean to you to have this premiere there? And now you're at South by.
Well, firstly, the Cannes experience is something you can't really prepare yourself for until you get there and you're in it. You know what I mean? Because there's thousands and thousands of people. In fact, when I was contemplating how I kind of got here and what I was doing and stuff, I was like, how do you get into the hotel? Are there like thousands of people outside? And it's very different here. You know what I mean? It's kind of spread around the city. Whereas in Cannes, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people just outside the hotel, walking down the street. I mean, it's a parade of life itself. It's not just the film festival. It's this extraordinary experience of people who are doing many different things. You know what I mean? And then to do the midnight performance, was it the Friday night or something?
I think so, yeah.
Was it Friday night, midnight performance? And we got this standing ovation, which went for, I mean, everybody's got a different. It went for like a bit of a half an hour. Because it really did. Because it started and it went for like 10.
Still going.
I'm still there.
They're still in the theater.
They're still there. We're just going.
They're all on drifts.
Yeah. But it did, right? Because we had this kind of commentary in the middle of it, and then people, they go again. And so it was just this kind of extraordinary experience of participation with an audience who really loved, well, firstly, they loved Nicolas, right? Because he's, as everybody does, right? But also the movie itself and what it speaks to and how well it's done and how well it's put together, all these kind of different elements. So it was an out-of-body experience, I guess, to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
And then even the hotel that I was at was, I mean, it was just rock and roll for 4 days straight, right? And I was only there for 4 days. I'm sure it kept going for the whole 2 weeks, but it just did not stop.
Yeah,
you know?
It was crazy. The one thing because I got to wrap with you guys. The one thing that I really loved about Cannes is that how they treat premieres, everyone in tuxedos, everyone dressed up so fancy to go see a movie. And they treat it like there's no place on earth that treats the art form like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, it's wild. And it's funny because like people like from the outside of the film business, whatever, people kind of think that that's what like directors walk around in all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
That you're always just sort of on red carpets wearing tuxedos. It's like completely the opposite of reality.
Yeah, no, it's like pretend land for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
totally.
And it's masterfully done. Yeah. You know, I mean, the way that it's executed.
Yeah, it's incredible.
The way that it's put together.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they've done it long enough and they know what they're doing. But when you're in the mix of it and you're like watching this thing work like clockwork and the cars move in and the audience moves in and you're down the carpet, you know, I mean, it's just it's quite an experience.
It's bananas. I can't imagine. I was watching from the outside. You guys were in the center of the whirlpool, you know, or the tornado. I can't imagine what it was like for you guys. But look, I got to stop. I'm just going to say, I really mean it. Congrats on the movie.
Thank you very much.
Congrats on the movie.
Thank you.
Enjoy your South by experience. And we should also plug the movies in theaters in May.
May 2nd.
Yeah, May 2nd in theaters.
Only in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely see this in a movie theater. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.